We have tales from two advisors mastering the remote digital advice delivery experience today with Derek Notman and Adam Holt, respectively, and they're going to tell us a bit about their experience and their long-term experience, not just the last couple months, on delivering remote advice. So go ahead, guys.
All right.
Hey.
Thanks, Allison. That was great. I appreciate it. Hey, Derek, how you doing?
I'm good, Adam. How are you doing today, my man?
Doing great. Gosh, it's funny. I think we've all built relationships digitally. Derek and I have built a relationship entirely digitally. We've never met physically.
Yep.
Like many of our clients, which ironically is a shared experience. And so I want to thank everybody for participating in today. This was exciting because Derek and I ran into each other actually at another conference. We were both engaging. I think it was Riskalyze's conference, a Fearless Investing Week that came up. And we realized we had so much similarity in our path, and we realized that we had our own following. So thank you if you're part of that, and we've somehow influenced your lives and your world. That's really awesome for us, and it really drives us. And we felt such a kindred spirit. We said we have to share some of our best practices with the community because everybody needs to pick up these best practices. And so we decided to do this thing quite on a whim, and we are excited that you're here. So we do have a framework because we do know how to run a virtual meeting, so we're not going to go into that. Let's kind of share with, before I jump into our agenda, let's kind of share a little bit about us. So Derek, tell us about how you got into remote delivery of advice, because I think it's a really important story for everybody.
Yeah, right. So just like a lot of advisors, I started off brick and mortar back in 2006, had the full office, staff, all that stuff, cold calling, lots of weekends and night appointments and all that. And sucks the life out of you, Adam, as you know. So through a combination of events that happened around the time my son was born back in 2011, and then about a year or two after that, really kind of pushed me to, I got to evolve, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
And I won't go down that rabbit hole today, but it all just led to going virtual, really making that initial change back in 2013. And man, yeah, it's been a life game changer, whatever you want to call it, ever since. It's been awesome.
That is great. Never going back, I guess.
No way. No, I'm sticking right where I am. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got your comfy chair and you can wear the shirts you want to.
You got that right.
You got style on your shirts. I actually have gone entirely to wearing only Asset Map and related gear because I don't go to the store. I just keep buying from our store more clothing. Everyone complains that all my stuff says Asset Map on. This is actually our most recently project that we worked on. We'll talk about it later.
Love it.
That's cool. So, similarly, I did brick and mortar too, 22 years in the business, like you, Derek, CFP, focused on the big picture, holistic planning,
yep.
Asset management, insurance shopping for our clients when they needed it. Was lucky enough and blessed enough to be part of a great crew of people that delivered. I started in the high net worth side and kind of worked into the middle market of advice, but I found that I'm always also like you, a very fast tech adopter. So one of my buddies told me once that he had access to a smart board that had kind of fallen off the truck, if you will. It was supposed to go to a private school about 15 years ago. He says, I got this extra smart board. I don't know what to do with it. I said, I'll buy it. Put it in my office, and I put this thing on my wall, and I was addicted to it, right? You'd come into the office, and it was literally a conference room. I would draw all over the place. It was like watching the weather person or John Madden doing your whole life on a board. And actually what happened is somebody said to me, they said, Adam, I can't come to the meeting, but we have this go-to-meeting service. Would you mind just broadcasting that board? And we figured out how to do it. And once we had that, there was no looking back. All of our clients, expressed that they didn't want to come in. They're like, I don't want to drive to your office in the suburbs. So we started doing this. For the last 10 years, our firm is 70% of the meetings have been remote. 10 years already running. And then the last 4 years, 95% remote. There's still people that they want to shake your hand, they want to look you in the eye. But we found that, like you, people respond really well to this. For those of us that are now forced into this environment, I think we all knew it was coming, maybe accelerated a bit. But certainly COVID this situation has caused probably irreparable tipping effect. I think we both agree is the new norm. So you just got to be good at it. So that's the kind of where we're coming from. I also put this down here as mentors, Derek. I hope you don't mind, because I don't, we're not your consultants. We're, regular guys that do this business. We love people and we want to help. So we think of ourselves as mentors. So if you allow us that opportunity to coach you for a minute, hopefully you find value in that. So here's what we're going to do. We decided that our agenda is going to talk about this. This is kind of, we already did that. We both came up with a couple themes that advisors have been asking us about, and how do you deliver remote advice. So this is where you're going to want to break out your pencil or your pen, whatever you're using to take notes. We're not going to put up 1,000 bullets on this screen. We are going to have a conversation. You're going to hear some things that make sense, some things you're already doing, some things you're never going to do. Okay, take down. This is the opportunity to find the gems. We're going to say those out loud. And we're going to have a discussion actually about which ones we think are really relevant for you. We're going to both talk about what we're working on next, because that's exciting. We both have our own projects that we're trying to. We have these visions we can't stop. Actually, that doesn't mean go get medical help. That means visions of where this industry is. We'll open it up to Q&A for the last 10 minutes, and then we'll share some resources. If you want to grow and you want to learn more about this stuff, we'll give you access to that. And we've got an awesome, we decided to spin up, we're going to do a program, a master class actually for those of you. So if you're attending today, we're going to get you access, prelim access to it. We're trying to figure it out as we go along. So thanks for being part of this journey. So let's get into it. Are you ready, Derek?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So here were I'm going to just list up the six themes. A lot of this came up, I think, around prospecting and marketing. How do we do this? How do we gather fact finding? These are bigger challenges that we're hearing from advisors, right? I can't see you, don't bring the shoebox. How are you going to get all this information? Yeah. How do you manage scheduling? A real big pain point these days without an assistant potentially. Recognizing that our conference room investments are gone. What do we do? Of course, the number one rule for digital presentations, we're going to share that. That's the one you really got to hopefully own and take away. And then, of course, how do you deal with all the people management, including yourself in this new environment, sustainably, right? How did we actually make sure that we are keeping on track, still keep our productivity high, but also make sure that we're meeting our family requirements. So let's get into this. So Derek, what do you think advisors who are moving to virtual meetings and so forth, how do they deal with lead generation and marketing? What are the challenges you're seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely part of the lifeblood for any advisor practice, whether you're a big shop or a single person shop, doesn't matter. It's huge and it's shifted. One of the oldest tricks in the book I'm trying to change this. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I don't like calling it prospecting. Mm-hmm. It's just, there's a negative connotation to it. No one ever said, please prospect me. So yeah. I think part of the mind shift is let's change it to marketing, okay? And so one of the old tricks to the book really about marketing is that you just have to go where people are and then be present there. And let's face it, folks, everyone's online these days. Everyone. It doesn't matter, age, all over the place. So if people are online, we have to have this digital or virtual presence where we can let people get to know us. People are searching for advisors, they're searching for help, they're searching for answers to their questions that they have. And so it's a massive opportunity for us if we can put that information out there. So I think that's the shift that has to happen. These seminars, especially the in-person ones, you can't do them now. If you try to schedule one of those now, you're gonna have zero attendance, okay? So there's been a shift. Cold calling, sure, you can get more people on the phone, but people don't want to be prospected like that way. Anyway, so I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole too far, but I think there has to be a shift there where we're really marketing ourselves online.
Yeah, I agree. So I heard something really interesting from Mike Kitsis at an event once. I think he framed it really well. When you tend to go out and look for a basic thing, like let's say a plumber, right? You tend to call somebody that and you say, did you know a good plumber? Or, you ask your neighbor, right? You don't have a high, need of getting it right or perfect. So you might go to Yelp and you see 5 stars on a plumber.
Yeah.
So the key is that no matter what, you have to build reputation, right? So if you have an established practice, you probably have reputation in a community. But you can't go to the golf club or to your church in the same way. You can't build the same kind of network. So you have to rely a lot upon your credibility, I think. The challenge is today, and you got it, I think, perfect, is that we have to be intentional about creating a digital reputation and presence, because people are going there to validate, even subconsciously, that yes, you're not going to be a high-risk decision, right? What does that mean? If your website looks like it was made 10 years ago, and your LinkedIn profile has like nonsense on it, and you don't have any friends, sorry. I think for most people, let's call X generation or younger, they're probably not going to take you seriously because you didn't commit to your business and your reputation. What do you think about that?
I think you're spot on. That's what people want. And because we have access to information at our fingertips, and we have choices, right? So if we don't find it with someone's website because it's awful or they don't have a social presence, they're going to just go to the next one. So we have an opportunity to build this credibility online, to be transparent, to let people get to know us. I can tell you all the leads I've gotten in the last couple of years, all of them say essentially the same message. Hey, Derek, I've been stalking you online, checked out your website, and we almost laugh and chuckle about it, but they did all that due diligence first before they ever even contacted me.
Yeah,
so that's what they're doing.
And I'm glad you said that because I've had the same experience. People commonly say that for some period of time, I've been watching your evolution. What would watch you? Like a camera? No, they've been watching you on LinkedIn, right? They're like, oh, I see you're doing well. You're successful. You put up this article that I read about education funding or long-term care. I didn't know that audience member was interested, but it happens over a long period of time, all of a sudden, right? Digital reputation requires that we actually contribute to it by being intentional about what that look and feel is, but also creating content that our ideal prospect wants to read about, so that we create a magnetism back to that digital profile. So over time and attempt, we're building that credibility as when they say your name, oh, that person, that's who I want to talk to. I've heard they're pretty good. So that's really important. There's a lot of topics around this. I think we're going to talk about this in our masterclass a lot because it's the bigger pain point for most of us in advisory is, if I have a full established practice and I still want to grow, we all know you could go buy a practice, but you still got to figure out a way to migrate this still to this new environment with credibility.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us think we've got the best cheeseburger in town, but if no one knows about it,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
That's right. Everybody's going to go hungry. All right, let's talk about this next topic has come up a lot recently, and I think a lot of it has to do with actually data security. And just to lay some framework of this, if you're a financial planner, you got to collect data from your clients. How are you recommending people do this, Derek? I mean, because you've been doing this so long.
Yeah, you can do this all virtually, digitally, and this is where you have to incorporate, some of the right tech stack, like Asset Map. I got to give you a little bit of a plug there, Adam, but but it's true. I mean, these are the these are the things that we can use. And so there you go. These are the things, though.
Yeah.
We have to be able to do this, and I'll tell you, if a consumer can go online and update other things with other vendors, like here's an example. My mom just had her bank account hacked, so she had to go update all sorts of stuff, Social Security, banking information here and there. She was able to even go to Social Security and update her banking information for her check. Okay, so they can do that there. If they can go on their phone with an app and look at their banking information, then they want the same convenience that that world provides with what we do. So yeah, you have to have a good tech stack to be able to streamline the process, make it digital, make it convenient. You're basically plugging into their existing digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
They're banking online, all the other stuff's online. So why not just plug into that instead of asking for that shoebox, which way back in the brick and mortar days, we did that. It's no fun.
Well, it's a good question because it makes me think about, for those clients that are likely, are we saying, or are you saying that remote advice is really only for people who might have the capacity to pull off a digital share of information, right? Because one of the real opportunities, we all know that the boomer population has a significant amount of the wealth here. They still have a huge problem on the retirement distribution challenge, but they're not necessarily so digitally minded that they would put all their statements into one platform or already have it there for you, right? So how do you facilitate getting that when you're asking them to scan or get PDFs? I mean, this is an interesting challenge. I'm wondering how you're doing it.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff we do, so like I'm an e-money advisor and user for some things, so there's a lot of nice direct API integration where I don't have to ask them for a PDF or scan something in. They can just log in, boom, they're done. Now,
Yeah,
not everyone is there yet, but I'd say almost everyone is. I mean, if I've got clients in their 70s that are doing this, right? So if they can do it, the 30-year-old definitely can do it.
yeah,
The challenge usually comes back to the advisor just doesn't have the infrastructure in place to allow them to do it that way. So then then the advisor's like, well, can you print this off, fill it out, and scan it back in for me? And the client's like, I don't have a printer, I don't have a scanner. What do you mean? You can't do
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Send me screenshots with your camera. So this is a big challenge, and I know that we'll be exploring this on our masterclass more because there are specific solutions we have seen out there that could that really facilitate this, and there's no substitute for it, right? You've got to invest at some time your time and/or your money or your team's money if you have a staff on collecting data. I know one of the things that we've been really focusing a lot is how do you actually do this in a space where the client already is, right? Can you do digital collection? The guidance that I've tended to have, which is make it light enough, easy enough that they can pull it off, but are not intimidated so they stop the process. Because that's what we tended to see. If you send, and I know my accountant does this to me, every year he sends me this 80-page fillable booklet, okay? Adam, tell me, and I'm like, you want me to do the returns too? I'm happy to do them. You don't delegate me homework, I'm not gonna do it. But if you make it easy for me, I'll probably do it. And so the key is to play this fine line of, I'm going to facilitate the process. There's some value in this as my role, but you got to do something. The question is, can you do it in a way that actually is not intimidating and is not overwhelming them so that they stop the whole process. Let's move on to the next topic here. I found that getting in the calendar, we did a lot of reliance in our firm on the physical parties, and we still have in our firm 10 support staff. They're working from home. But typically they would manage the calendars, right? In a dentist's office, if you come in, you never leave before you have your next 6-month calendar one, right? They've got that down pat. Well, we said that to our team. So when anybody comes in, as soon as they get moving towards the door, somebody stops them and says, do you have the next meeting scheduled? Without that, we've had to move to digital tools. I don't know if you have thoughts about, managing calendars, especially given this time.
Yeah, I used to do the same thing. It was that old model, and we would literally write it down. We had one of those big books like the dentist has, right? All the different colors, and you'd write it down. And especially with the pandemic this year, people aren't going to go out anyways, so they're going to want, again, it's that convenience factor, and let's get it scheduled. So leverage tech to do that. But control that calendar as well. We'll get into detail on that in the master class, but you can give access to a calendar, and I do have remote staff as well, and we give the option to our clients, like, hey, like, you can self-serve, right, and just schedule a meeting at your convenience, but we also outreach and do that, but then we always drive them back to our digital calendar. So it's a simple, done, easy, it's convenient, everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's so I do so much scheduling. One of my biggest, I had a lot of coaching early on in my career. I was always interested in learning best practice. I would be attending this session if someone else gave it. And one of the tips that I heard was, literally manage your calendar very intentionally because it dictates your entire experience throughout the day. And so somehow I got this crazy idea. I said, I'm going to work on Tuesday. So I'm going to work Tuesday, and then the other days I'm going to work if I want to, right? This was my perfect vision of the lifestyle I want. We happen to have had kids at the same exact year, it turns out, in 2011. Cool. And I want to be there. I want to work. I want to be home at 5 o'clock every day. I want to walk my kid to class and school. And that's the lifestyle I want. This is one of the reasons I'm motivated for this. And I still follow that protocol today. So I work more than just Tuesdays. But I actually planned it out so that I would have this red time, green time, yellow time, working on the business, in the business. And what's important about those calendars is that I actually have my digital calendar set up, which is tied to my CRM and tied to my live calendar, that it only allows people to book in certain times. If they don't book in my parameters, which are crazy, they got to book out months, which is great for me because it's the calendar, right? I think my recommendation or contribution to you, audience, is that get so used to these calendar items that you actually now make your staff follow the calendar availability. They can't just sneak in little things when they want to, like, this is my time. And if they don't have access to the calendar, they have the calendar link. And I actually have it on my phone so that whenever I'm talking to somebody, I can just text them the link and say, here's my calendar. Don't even talk about it. It'll tell you when I'm available, when I'm not. I don't want to talk. I might could send that to my mom too. I'm gonna send her the calendar link. But it's
I make
true.
my mom.
What were you
That's
saying?
fine.
Okay.
I have my mom use it as well.
You do, see? Well, it's probably more reliable than looking at the actual calendar.
Oh, it is. It totally works. I totally agree. Yeah, we can really dive deep in this in the master class, but controlling that calendar was a total life-changing event for me. You know, and when you become a parent, as you know, like everything changes and priorities change. Because I used to be like, sure, I can meet with you at any time, any day, anywhere. I'll just go. I don't care if it's at midnight on a Saturday. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And that totally takes its pound of flesh with you. So leverage tech, control your calendar, and it's amazing how much more productive and happy you actually get too.
Yeah, it's true. It provides that kind of I think clarity also that you're not always trying to scramble.
Yes.
What am I supposed to be doing right now? Because as we'll talk about in a second, I mean, when you work in your own environment and you don't have the buzz of other people and the kind of momentum of work going on around you, and you can go to the fridge every 5 minutes to see if something's changed in the refrigerator, magically appeared, right? Because that's something. That was very hard for me, and forcing myself to have a calendar where I'm going to be a certain place, certain time is really critical for those of us that have ADD and they want to go off and do something different every 5 seconds. So I think that's something that's really worthwhile taking a look at. It takes a while to get there, but you got to use these digital tools. There are a lot of them out there. I don't think we're going to endorse any. We might bring some of those up that we've been using over the past.
There's plenty of ways to do it for sure. Yeah.
Let's jump to this idea of the conference room. One of the bigger challenge I know that for me, that I grew reliant on my conference room. It was literally the stage I worked in. Remember, I had this large smart board. It was almost an entertainment vehicle. Now they can't see me standing up there in this almost teacher mentality. And I had to adapt. And there's a couple things. I'm curious how you adapted to this, what we call the new 24-inch or whatever your screen size is, conference room that you're running. How do you manage an environment like this now?
Yeah, it was a challenge at first because there was no one telling me how to do it. But I came from the same place there, and like I doubled down. I bought a 10,000 square foot office building on Main Street in the town I was in. We had 2 conference rooms, staff, made it look nice, all that stuff. And well, one, people don't tell you how much of a hassle and expensive that is. Some of you on your team might already know this.
Yeah.
So I was reliant on that because that's just what I thought. That's, hey, what's what you got to do. So when I started making that transition, I was like, okay, well, I can't do this. Funny quick story. We used to have people come in, like when I was working remotely somewhere else, we'd have people still come into my physical office and we'd set up Skype on a computer. And we would read that way. It was really goofy and wonky, but it worked. But yeah, so now
you were remoting in. Is that what you mean, Derek? You were remoting into your own conference room.
I was. So it was weird, but it worked. It worked. But so now, yeah, I can unplug one cord. I can work anywhere in the world. I have 2 huge monitors at my desk where I'm working most of the time.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other infrastructure that goes in place there. But yeah, if you don't have the right infrastructure, mic, camera, sound, light, all that stuff, and the right computer and setup, it's going to be for a really bad experience for both sides.
It is very true. I've been a zealot about this one, mostly because I grew up on the design side of education, and everything was about presentation, right? What you could be intentional and choiceful about really dictated how it was received, right? It's no different than why I chose to comb my hair, right? I didn't have to. My belief is that I'll be more credible if I look more presentable. And the same thing is true with our presentations. When we invest in these awesome offices and spaces, it looks, well, we're successful, and I want to work with someone who's successful as an advisor. And that tends to be the natural, intent. So we spent a lot of money. I think we spent $10,000 just outfitting our office just a year ago with these beautiful big monitors and nice chairs and furniture that costs too much and nobody uses. And then now all of a sudden, we're trying to get by on our rinky-dink, little camera that we bought 5 years ago when Grandpa wanted to Skype us, right? So the key is to make a comparable investment, not tens of thousands of dollars, but like you, I have 5 feet of screen around me. I'm probably getting cancer as we speak, but boy, I see everything. I've got these remote speaker phones. You know, they cost $90. Okay, but I can carry it with me. I can go anywhere. Picks up audio fantastic. There's really some important investments that people need to make. And gosh, you know what, Derek, I find is that it's all how it's received, right? I can have all these fantastic tools, but remember your customer, maybe on an iPad, or God forbid, they're actually coming in on an iPhone. They're trying to look at what you're trying to tell them, and they're zooming in. So you have to remember it's how it's received. If they have a 9-inch iPad, you don't want to display a 30-inch monitor on a 9. You can't stand it. I don't know if you've experienced that before, but that's brutal.
Yeah, it's true. Like you really have to put yourself in their shoes, and I'll test it. I'll set up my whole thing of like for a meeting, and I'll put it on my phone, or I'll put it on my wife's laptop or something. Like, how does this actually look, right? Because the last thing you want is to be in the meeting, especially with someone who's not a client yet, right? That's the worst time, because you're trying to get them in, you're trying to instill confidence and that you know what you're doing. And if you're fumbling around or whatever, like, forget it. They're going to go somewhere else.
No, it's true. So that's why the audio quality matters, the video quality matters, your display matters. I mean, you wouldn't buy a huge conference room and then put an iPad and tape it to the wall, 15 feet away. Look at your awesome, here's your asset allocation here. Come on. So you have to be intentional. I love that you've actually tested this out. But I try to be the empathetic person, right? I'm asking, well, can you see what I'm talking about? Is this legible? Do we need to come up with a different method? Should I send this to your email as well, right? Make sure that you're thinking about their needs, because for many customers, this is also a bit unique unless you've been doing this for some time. So you have to show that you have leadership here and you know what you're doing, and you're empathetic enough to say like, hey, are you cold? Are you hot? Do you need a sweater? Think the same way in this experience, because remember, if people walk away and say, oh, gosh, that person really didn't have their stuff together, you know what? I'm going to just call Schwab. I'm just going to call Vanguard.
Exactly. You may be the best advisor in the world, but if that first impression is lacking, they're going to go somewhere else where they feel more comfortable.
That's true. That's true. This came up, we're actually 2 away from our kind of major themes here before we go to Q&A. So please be sure that you add your questions as they come up for you. We'll get to them towards the end of this program. I think that may be actually the most valuable stuff in here. Presentations was an interesting, Derek, one, because I know for us, what we learned early in our experience is that we created hours and hours worth of analytics preparing for the meeting, because typically we would come to our meetings and the investment advisor team would plot down their investment analytic research and it would sit there, and maybe we would open it up to page 273, or we'd show it up on the screen because it was all synced up after we figured that out. But in a digital environment, you want access to that stuff, but I found we were never getting to any, never. Because what happened is clients were more interested in talking about, are we okay? Where's our stuff? And that's really the roots of what we developed in AssetMap. But I think the resounding experience we had was, you really are actually creating a reality television show for 50 minutes, 40 minutes, right? I mean, so it's you can't be showing 80 pages of stuff the whole time. Nobody's going to pay attention. They're going to be off doing their emails. So I'm curious how you're dealing with this, and how do you manage presentations using a tool that's very complementary as eMoney? How do you actually manage a presentation?
Yeah, so this is so important. People are going to get lost, whether it's in a boardroom or in a computer. The difference is that they're doing a remote meeting with you, they can get lost and you don't know it, and that's bad, right? So you need to keep their attention. So I've always been what I refer to as a conceptual closer, if you will. So I didn't like 400 pages, like, hey, I'm going to show you why this and this and this and this. And that stuff's important because it's like the analysis and the background information to support it, but you got to keep it so simple so people can answer those questions, like, how does this solve my problem? Am I okay? Do I feel good about this? And keep it on 1 or 2 pages. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who haven't used AssetMap, I mean, this is a great representation. 1 page, guys, all conceptual, shows you how it all fits together. And eMoney has some stuff like that as well. There's plenty of vendors that do things like this, but simplify it, get it down there, and let them get comfortable. So when I'm doing my presentations, I am not showing everything. I'm breaking it down to the key points to get the concept across, to get them to buy in. And that's what they want. And so if you're trying to show like a 400-page PDF and you're flipping through the pages, you're going to have a lot of challenges. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually, you reminded me something when you said it. There is a shift, in my opinion, at least, in a digital meeting because you're both actually in front of the computer. Computer is connotative of actually doing work, right? Usually when we're in front of a computer, typically we're all doing work. So the reality is that the financial planning delivered in a remote environment is actually a working session, which basically means what we're working on is elevating your financial condition. So whether we're using asset map or money, I found actually it's better to spend our time negotiating on the assumptions that we're seeing in real-time modeling. So we talk about retirement. Okay, let's talk about retirement for 5 minutes, right? I tend to bracket everything. I only have 5 minutes to discuss this, so I don't go off the rails. But let's take the next 5 minutes to talk about financial planning. I bring up their retirement plan. I said, this is what it looks like basically on this assumption. If we increase it by this, this is the impact. Do you see why we need to do what we're doing? Yes. Would you like to change some assumptions? Yes, no. And you negotiate till you get to the variables that work. And then everybody's bought in. Now taking action is just executing what you said we agreed to, right? So I think that's the difference between remote advice. Please.
Yeah, it resonates so much with me, and you can do it in real time, which is awesome. And then they can see it, so they can be like, well, I don't like this thing. Can we change this assumption to this, and how does that impact? Sure, 2 seconds later, it's done. Boom, they see it. And because people have these questions and concerns they really want answered, so if they can see it in real time, right, and now they're not being sold to, they're part of a process where they have input that they are getting instant feedback on. Awesome, right? Like that's a win for everybody.
Absolutely, I 100%. Seeing the thing change in real time and understanding that we're all working towards the same goal is really important. And so the takeaway for that for most of you is don't be afraid to do managed real-time modeling and showing people the impact of some of these levers and decisions they need to make. Really comes into play with respect to if you can keep it high level, asset allocation, insurance decisions, whether to insure, not insure, self-insure, financial, cash flow modeling is obviously really important in the good examples. But then you've got to come up with a way that's consumable and not going to lose people because it's so technically deep. That's the real challenge I know for a lot of us in the financial space today is, I know your attention span is very limited. How do I make sure that this is going to be relevant? And I'm not going to lose you. And then you're going to look at me, this guy didn't help me, spoke gibberish, but I guess we'll do it. I don't know what else to do, so we'll do what he says or she says. That's pretty important. Let's talk about the last topic here, which is really how do you manage people? Now this, I'm really looking forward to your answer here, Derek, because you've been doing this full time, whereas I've been also playing with this asset map project the past 5 years.
Yeah, that's taken up a little bit of your time. Yeah, so I absolutely love remote staff, and I wish I would have learned it sooner. So again, as I said earlier, I had multiple in-house staff with their own office space I was paying for, W-2 employees, the whole works. And through just some frustrations and some challenges that come with having in-house staff, which we don't need to get into today, I needed to make a change, and I went down that rabbit hole of remote staff, and I started with just one. And I was like, wow, this is kind of awesome. And it's a lot less expensive. And then I just ended up, my entire team at this point is virtual. I've only met one of them, and all of them are in different time zones. So it works beautifully. And as far as managing, like you may be able to see there's a book right there. Can you see that?
It says virtual. Virtual
Culture is what it's called. Read it. And it was actually written before the pandemic. This guy was ahead of his time. But you can manage culture no problem virtually. No problem. You can keep people in tune. And I was even chatting with some of your staff, in the last week here, and it was really cool because we're seeing a side of ourselves that you normally wouldn't see in the office. Like they get to hear my dog barking, or whatever. So you're starting to get into this more personal side of things. I think communication is absolutely critical with when you're having these remote staff, so the expectations are there, but also empower them. Like, hey, I'm going to train you, but now just go do it and tell me how to make my business better too.
Yeah, that's really important. You know, I'm glad this is conversational because I want you to know if you're listening to this program, we didn't script this at all. I don't know what Derek's going to say. I just trust that what Derek's going to say is similar to me. And right, because we have that alignment. But I noticed something really interesting and I want to point it out to everybody. Notice that both Derek and I are sitting in front of windows. We have no windows to our back. And I can't tell you how many times that, and by the way, his lights are not even on in his room. And that little light over there does nothing for anybody. So don't worry about it. We can sit in this space, have incredible light and clarity in our video, which I see right now, because we've intentionally chosen to sit facing a window coming in. Is that true, Derek?
Exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep.
You know what else I noticed? Because the space that you're in has books, like I have my books over here. You can't see them in this video, but I've got my books.
There you go.
And when we're on widescreen, a lot of people are subconsciously picking up the rest of the room. They're wondering what is going on in Adam's room, and they see that I've got a bunch of books because they know that I'm a student of this business, right? And they'll see all my books on the side. I see your books, right? There's subliminal messaging there. Do you see that horned animal in the back?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know half of you are wondering, what the heck is that? Why is it a red horns? You know what that is? That's a project my daughter and I made together, right? It's personal. It's an art project we built. And I think what I see a lot of advisors doing that's a mistake, especially in this managing culture and experience, is they throw up the screen of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes.
Whatever, the Zoom meeting with the palm trees going back and forth. I'm totally mesmerized by the palm trees all the time. I'm not even listening to you, okay? And there's a component there, and I don't know if you feel this way, of legitimacy, of reality that you get when you actually show your real intimate space.
No question. You know, I've worded that a different way, but mean the same thing. What are you hiding?
Yeah.
Right? The client might be thinking, well, why is there a fake background? Like where is this person? Are they legit? You
Right.
know, and they may not even be able to articulate it, but they're thinking it. So it's super important to have these personal little touches and the right lighting and all that other stuff that goes with it. I also did, you know, I mentioned this earlier, but do you notice that you and I both have a whiteboard that's just leaning against the wall?
Yeah. No, is that your whiteboard on the side there?
It's on the side there, just behind the globe there. Yeah. 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 So.
Wait a minute. You didn't plan that, right?
No, that's been there.
Weird. And see, you have that globe there, and the globe is actually because you love to internationally travel.
I love to travel, and the picture behind me is in Venice. I took that picture.
See now, okay. So these are moments, if you're listening to this, you might say, well, that's obvious and silly. I can't tell you how many times I've been on meetings where an advisor is missing that moment, and
Yes.
they're not, and you're already digital. I can't shake your hand. I can't give you a hug. I'm not gonna, why would I make it even more, let's say, sterile, if you will? So I think that's really important. You know, the only thing I would throw in on the remote people and self-management is managing relationships has been challenging. It's been challenging for us, it's been challenging for myself, I'll speak personally. I think the key here is to get in the habit of connecting on an ongoing basis, force that communication, whether it's your team, but it's probably also true for clients. So don't forget to reach out to them just because and check in. Well, you can use digital tools, of course, workflows through CRM to do this, automation, but nothing stops us from also just sending sometimes a text if you can do it. Just say, hey, just thinking about you, and try to find ways to be proactive. Because I found in a remote environment, I can actually run meetings probably 30 minutes, which normally would be an hour and a half of like talking about the kids' soccer. But now I'm running them 35 minutes back to back. And I actually find I have to do more of them now, right? So more touches, tighter, smaller, and you have to really sequence them. That's what we've been recommending.
Which it works well, but you can still keep it super personal. So it's pretty awesome.
That's great. I wanted to throw in some things that both Derek and I are working on because we've decided to do some joint projects. And, for us, we've been thinking about how do you create a customer experience that works in paper, remote, still digital if we go back to digital presentations and maybe mobile. And so that's what we tend to focus on a lot at Asset Map. As advisors, we joke, we're both advisors who are solving advisor problems because, hey, who better to solve it? We're physically. But I think we've been thinking a lot about how you create that experience. And then number two, how do we make it easy by connecting a lot of these technologies? I mean, one of the bigger challenges we've seen, whether you're interviewing your clients to get data or you're integrating or you're doing it with pen and paper, I think we're going to see this continued press towards connecting more stuff. So talk to me, Derek, about what you're working on here in this area.
Yeah, so this is, and connector, and people don't know this, but connector is spelled with a Q purposefully. It's not just because I wanted a cool tech name, all right?
I thought that's what you wanted.
Yeah, and there's a reason, and I can't take credit for it. My wife actually came up with this, but it's all about connecting people first at the qualitative level, because we are human beings, and then connecting people on the quantitative level, right? So it's about bringing it all together. And whether you're using asset map or something else, like there's all these things that have to fit together. And I've used this analogy so many times, it's probably getting annoying for some people, but it's like a master blueprint for your house. Mm-hmm. Why would you buy a great, like high-end fitting for your master shower, but not have a blueprint so you know how it all fits together? So yeah. That's what we're really working on. It's like just empowering advisors to use Asset Map and all these other tools and even more, and how they all fit together, and how do you market them? How do you manage the remote staff? So it's been a real passion project that I selfishly started for myself because I wanted to be with my son, right? I wanted to have a better life, work balance. And then all of a sudden, all these advisors are like, well, how do you do that? Huh, it's a good question. Let me tell you.
The same thing, gosh. That's the same story as us, right? Started with a few, and next thing you know, it go viral, and next thing you know, we're working for everybody else. So
that's okay. We're mentors, remember? It's okay.
It's crazy, this. One of the other things that we've been working on is this idea of, I mentioned Advice Tech. Advice Tech Live was a program that we put on not too long ago. We just tried to put everybody in the room together and see what happened, CEOs of major fintech companies, and we rolled this out. You can go get it, actually. If you're looking at, it's free, it's open. We put all of our competitors and peers on a singular map to say, what's the market look like, and jumping points to all of them if you want to find out, right, who's doing risk management today, who's doing this, that, and the other. Truly agnostic. We're really trying to help advisors figure out what to do and where to snap all this stuff together. So that's going. Allison, I want you to, are you there still? Can you take us to Q&A? And I know I see some comments there. I'd love to bring them public before we, in the last 10 minutes here.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
That was fantastic. Such good information. Thank you so much. And we have some really good questions. So I'm going to get to some of those. And we'll try to get to everybody's. And if we don't, just as a heads up, someone will be reaching out to you. So if it's more of a question that we can help you on the side, we'll be reaching out. How about first up, what are you guys using for your website? I use FMG Suite, but with maybe like a little bit more of a custom site. Also love the financial feeds, but want to really focus on my message. Any thoughts on websites out there that might be great? Website for custom websites.
That's a good. What do you think, Derek? I mean,
So I have my preference. So I'll tell you who I use, but I think there are a lot of really good options out there. So I use advisor websites, and I've been using them for about 6-7 years now. I have 2 websites with them, and they allow me to do all the customizations that I want to do. And you can have that designed in-house, or you can have it designed out. So there are other great vendors, 20 over 10, FMG Suite. There are plenty of great vendors out there. I think the challenge is like just find a website for the website's sake isn't going to help you. You have to almost take a step back and be like, what am I trying to accomplish with my website? What should I have and what shouldn't I have on it? And you can have designed in-house, or you can outsource that. I had all mine designed overseas, actually, in Europe. I've got a relationship over there. The team was less expensive too, and it just worked. So that's been my experience with it.
Yeah, I think that's all about management. I mean, we've done $35,000 websites. We've done $2 websites, and it's not always what you pay for. The reality is it's a commitment to a continuous updating and tweaking. But I think the key is to come up with a brand, consistent brand, and you just replicate that and make sure you don't deviate it, because people can pick that up. Like all of a sudden, if you got this color scheme and then you got this font style, it looks messy. So make sure whatever you're doing, it looks consistent so that you're not getting that feedback. I happen to also like 20 over 10. I've used lots of different, FMG is also a great tool here. I see they're using that. Allison?
Yeah, great. So David writes, there are lots of professionals slash companies that are trying to contact me just about weekly and say they'll, if you pay us X amount of dollars, we'll get you X amount of leads every week slash month. Are you guys seeing success with any of these companies, or is it more of a waste of time in your opinion?
I'm going to tread lightly on that one. I'll tell you what I do and what I don't do, and you can maybe, pull something out of that. I have never paid for one of those services. I don't use them for a number of reasons. I'm not saying they're bad. I know some advisors have had some success with them, but all of the leads that I'm generating are all because of, like even Adam said earlier, the content creation. And just the activity online. That's where it's coming from. And you have to think about this, right? So the quality of the leads is only as good as the quality you're putting into it. So if you're just paying a couple bucks for a service with no input other than that, then what's the quality there? And same with prospecting, right? Put good in, get good out. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, by the time I got into remote, I would say that I had an established practice, and I was taught very early on that referral is the key. So if you have 50 clients that you would like to double, you go and ask for a referral from each one of those people. The key to that is that you've got to have a very definable, not just for you, but the client has to be able to define your value proposition like this. In other words, yeah, when Adam, I want to refer you to my advisor, Adam. He helps map my entire life visually over the internet, never have to meet him. It's awesome. But if you have no clear value proposition, in other words, your clients can't tell your elevator pitch and feel it and own it and be like, that's why I'm there, then you're gonna have a hard time getting your actual clients to actually refer you, and it just won't go anywhere anyway. Yeah. So if you don't have that capacity to be clear and intentional and be a true value, that's gonna be a challenge for the traditional method in a remote environment when I can't just meet up with their friends. Right? We'll go golfing together. He's gonna introduce me, she's gonna introduce me. It'll be easy. But in a digital environment, you have to be intentional. You have to ask for referrals and tell specifically people. I know there's probably the most effective thing these days. Everybody's connected on LinkedIn. Before I talk to a client, I look up their LinkedIn, see who I actually want to talk, and I ask specifically for referrals to those parties. Yep. We have, as a company, done some experimentation with Facebook advertising recently. It has been massively successful. I could not believe it, frankly, because there are so many people in the social media, especially Facebook, that would be, anonymously clicking and finding out about you, and you're capturing that lead. And it turns out they are actually looking for advice. They were searching. So I think you'd be surprised, but you got to put money behind it. I've never had any, I've never bought leads since I was maybe my second year.
Yeah.
And thankfully it didn't work, so I found another way. How about that? Allison, you have what else do we have out there?
Yes. So question around security. How are you guys putting clients' minds at ease when you're digitally sharing information, financial information, especially over the web in this kind of new environment?
It honestly really hasn't been a concern. My clients really haven't mentioned it for the most part. They're so used to doing everything else online. And sometimes we'll say like, hey, we use super secure technology. Here are the vendors that we're partnering with. Here's the kind of type of tech that they have, et cetera, et cetera. But it's never been a challenge. Knock on wood, I've never had an issue because of it. And I think you just have to communicate that. And again, they're already comfortable doing everything else this way. So it's nothing new. I mean, I would feel more uncomfortable if you're asking me to like print something off and scan back my social security number and all this, because then that's where it starts to get a little wonky. And then there's a lot of little different tech things you can do for encryption and secure data management and all of these things. There's a lot of ways you can do that if you leverage the right tech for it.
Yeah, I think on the security thing, I see several questions here around security and infrastructure, especially with these digital tools. We're putting all these people's information online. I would impress upon you the importance of using secure, send secure emails. You're doing all this stuff because emails are easily hacked. Platforms these days, if they are, if they have enterprise level customers, I know for us, we were put through an enormous amount of due diligence at every broker dealer. That takes months and months of inspection and testing, and they each make you do it, and insurance and protection. So, you know, all of your technology should have enterprise bank level encryption, and really requires insurance actually to cover breaches and so forth. So there are things that we have to have in place. That's why a smaller company has a real hard time getting to this business these days, because even though it's a great idea, they just, you know, if they're holding personal data, the scrutiny is enormous, and it's been a huge expense for us. So that's a context for some of the people who are talking about data. But with respect to clients, I think they're comfortable having data online. I mean, I have to say, I'm sorry about it, but you know, someone sent me my my American Express card in an email back to me saying, "Hey, I have your card," right? And you know, trying to get Bitcoin out of me. You know, like your data's out there. The question is, you know, do you manage it securely? I think the bigger risk is letting your kids use your laptop to go play Roblox or Minecraft, download some malware, and your computer's skunked. Like that's happening more, I think, than advisors, you know, not doing good passwords and having poor encryption in their apps. So something to think about, especially if we're working from home, right? I can't say my kid wants to play Minecraft on my computer all the time. That's separate, right? And so that they don't have the opportunity to download some malware. Allison, we probably have time for 2 more, and then I have some closing things that we want to give away.
Okay, well, we still have a few, so we'll probably get back to a couple of you who have specific questions about AssetMap or Connector separately. Thank you so much for your questions. We're happy to reach out, and you're always welcome to contact us for more demos on either system too, just so you all know. But let's, this one's kind of fun. Let's do a fun one. What's the most oddball service a client has ever asked you for?
Oddball service.
Like what? I don't even know what an example would be.
That's,
I don't know, maybe you guys have very by the book clients.
Pay for my airplane? I don't know. Come over for dinner? I don't really want to hang out with him. I don't. I think we need another question, one that actually relates to everybody.
All right.
Call.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, this one's also related to security a bit. Virtual staffing. How are you managing client confidentiality with your staff working in multiple places?
Yeah, so what I've done is the people that have any type of client touch, whether it's, you know, communicating, access to client files, all that kind of stuff, we do background checks, fingerprints, all of that stuff first. So we've got them all, you know, sorted. Then we get their machine, their computer encrypted, right? And then they're using the same technology, the same cloud-based servers that we're using with their own access, which I can pull at any time. So if a remote staff's going to start messing around, it doesn't matter if they're in the office next door or another time zone, they're going to do it. So as long as you've got all those protocols in place where you can cut them off right away if you need to, and I've never had that happen. I've always had great experiences with this, but you can manage it really well. And then anyone on my team that does not need to see client data, we just don't give them access to it. It's just that simple, right? My social media team has no reason to look at my client data, so they don't get any access to it. So we control that. I can literally like turn off access to any system for any of my staff anytime with a few clicks of the mouse, and I'm done.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on standardizing all hardware for everybody who's remote. We actually, all of our people, they started on site, so we know them all physically, we know them personally, and then they went remote. So all those devices, as you can imagine, don't even allow for USB to be put in there, like it doesn't even work. So that to move data offline, and we can port into their computers, wipe them on a whim. You need that infrastructure. That's one of the things that I think a lot of smaller firms miss. That they think, oh, I'm backed up. Like I got a backup. Like great. Like you need like actually real-time monitoring of encryptionware, malware, all that stuff. Not just like what was it called? What was that company called? McAfee. Like I have McAfee from 1985. Like that's not. Listen, everybody stay in touch. Please be part of us. Follow us on LinkedIn or whatever you're using socially. Be part of this. Don't just disappear. We invite you to be part of us. You also know how to connect with both Derek and I on our teams. Obviously, we both have companies that serve this population. If you want to learn more, you can certainly visit us. at both virtualadvisorsystem.com and assetmap.com. Learn more about what we're doing. We invite you to be part of it. And thank you so much for being here today. All right, Derek, I wish you the best. Stay
You too,
warm.
buddy. Cheers. We'll see you guys later.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Great job.